How you doing? My name's Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Dragon X8 compound bow and what to do if your string comes off. So when you get a compound bow, a Dragon X8, it should look like this. However, if you draw the bow back and let go without an arrow on it, it could end up looking like this. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix this, and I'm also going to tell you first how to avoid it. All compound bows are made to generate a tremendous amount of force. That's why we have the whole system that we do. This preloaded limb here, it's bent because they already have a load put on it, and these cams help to store energy. So when you draw back a compound bow, it's going to store a tremendous amount of energy at full draw, and it's going to provide a lot of force in this direction. Now, if you do not have an arrow on there, that force has to go somewhere, and often it vibrates in the bow, causing the string to come off the cams, which is what happened in this scenario right here. This bow here, the string is hanging down right there. Now, a lot of people are brand new to archery who are getting Dragon X8 compound bows because they're such a nice bow for the price. You never, ever, ever want to pull back a bow without an arrow on the string. So you want to, before you ever even pull a bow back, you want to put the arrow on the string. With this style rest, the odd color fletch faces straight up. Now, as you can see, I have my release strapped around my string and cables here. I intentionally do that because I don't even want to pull the bow back until it's time to shoot. So that's a good way to keep track of your release, and also to discourage people from picking up your bow and pulling it back and letting go. So what's been happening for some people is the Dragon X8 is their first bow. They're all excited. They take the bow out of the package. They want to see if they can pull it back, and they pull it back and let it go. And as I said, that is a major no-no. Don't ever do that. However, when Sanlita ships these bows, they ship them at the draw weight set so low that it typically would just cause the string to come off and not destroy the bow. What I want to do now is point out a few things to look for if your string has come off because you've dry fired your bow, and to make sure those things are in place, and then it's just a matter of putting the string back on. For putting the string back on, we're going to loosen the limb bolts out a little bit farther. That's going to allow the limbs to come closer together. It's going to allow us to put the cam in its proper position and put the string back on. Then we can tighten the limb bolts back up. One of the places to look first is there is a little C-clamp on the end of the axle on both sides of the axle here. You want to make sure those C-clamps are in place. If one has come off, if flown off in the process, that means your axle is no longer secured properly. It could eventually come out and cause the cam to come flying off. That could be a very dangerous situation. So verify that your C-clamps, the C-clamp right on the end, is in place. Now I'm going to show you how to restring two different bows. The one I'm holding has the newer cam design. I encourage Sanlita to make a modification to their original cam, and they took my advice, and so they have, there's some bows that are out there that have the original design, which I have one sitting on the table here. This is the new design. Let's get started on how to fix this situation. The first thing I like to do is take a pencil and mark the bolt, the limb bolt that we'll be turning, put a straight line up onto the pocket right here that the limb bolt secures into. So that straight line going on the limb bolt and on the outside of the pocket here, that's just going to help us keep track of how many times we're turning the limb bolt in this process. So again, I'm putting a straight line here and onto the pocket here. So as I turn the limb bolt a full rotation, I'll be able to keep track and count how many times. So I'll take my largest Allen wrench that comes with the bow. I'll put it in here. I see where my line is. Now I'm going to turn it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Carefully turning the bow and turning the bow around so I can do the same on the other end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 limb bolt turns. Okay, so now we've loosened our limb bolts out even farther. I want to make sure that my limbs are in the pocket properly, everything's secured. I'll put a little pressure this way because there's little knobs in here that help hold the limb in place. So I've done that. Now for the string is going to go around the outside of the cam. Alright, here's another look. So let me pop this off for a second. Okay, let's say your cam is sitting like that. The cable, we want it to the inside, not toward the outside, but we want the cable on that side. See how that's going in there? Now on the other end, the cable, I don't want it to the outside, I want it coming to the inside. Now for the string, it's attached to the knob here. You put it in the track of the cam, around. Now I'm going to come over on this end, I'm going to go around the cam, come through the yoke system here, and to get started I'm going to put it on the knob. Now we're going to need to feed this around the cam. Now also I can see my cables, one's on one side of the rod, one's on the other. They both need to be on the inside of the rod. Now I can see my cable slide is missing too, so, and the Peep sight has come out. So those are two things we'll also want to replace. Okay, so right here I'm not able to slip this around, which means I need to loosen my limb bolt a little bit more. So I'm going to take my Allen wrench, I'm looking at my mark that I have, and I'm just going to take it out 3 more turns. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, let's see if that gives us enough. We're getting closer. I'm going to need to take it a little bit more. Do 3 more turns. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now my string is back on. Now's a good time to reinsert your Peep sight. Okay, so right now my D-loop is facing this way. When I tighten everything back up, it probably will spin around in that way. But I'm going to insert my Peep sight in the direction I need it in relation to the D-loop. So when I do this, when I put this in the string, I want the top that's going to be facing more toward the top cam in the same direction as the D-loop. And you can see where my string was split before. I'm just going to put that in there. Slide these a little bit closer just to hold it in the position while I'm tightening the limbs back up. Make sure all of these are in place. Now another thing I want to do before I tighten everything all the way back up is check the other side. So my cables are in the correct position there. You want to make sure those are in their slots properly. So the cables are going to be around the half moon, away from the draw length module, so on that side of it. Now I can go ahead and tighten up my limbs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now normally you only do 2 rotations on a side at a time, but in this situation, because I'm so far out, I'm just going to get it started with those 6, but then after that I'm only going to go 2 at a side, on a side at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now as I hit 6, I'm starting to get a little bit of tension on there. So now I'm going to do 2 at a time. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is check my tiller measurement. So I'm going to take a tape measure, I'm going to put it underneath the yoke here, hook it on the outside of the limb pocket. Now I have 12.5 inches to the outside edge of the string here. And as I check it on the other end, exactly on 12.5 inches to the outside edge of the string there with where it currently is. Depending on how many turns you've done, it will be less or more than that number, but they're equal. That's the key. They're the same, because if we don't have the same number of rotations, it's going to change the distance from the string to where the outside edge of that limb pocket is, and the bow will not have the same rotation as the cams turn. Okay, now that I have the string back in place, I want to go over everything. Double check my C clamps on the end of each axle. They're in place properly on both ends, looking good. Next I want to look at my cable, where the cable goes on the cam. It's on the outside of that half moon away from the mod, so that's in the correct position. On the other end, same thing, on the outside edge of that half moon away from the draw mod. I look at my draw mod to make sure that the hash mark, that little line on the cam here, is in line with the corresponding number here. So right now, out of the box, it came to me at, looks like it's on number 5 there. And yes, it's on number 5 the other end. So those are the same. Now I want to resist the urge to draw the bow back, and I'm going to put an arrow on the string. Currently there's no arrow rest, so I'm not going to fire this arrow. However, if it was to accidentally go off unintentionally, it's at least going to provide the force against the string to prevent it from, derailing again or coming off. Now I do have a target right there. I'll just pull this back here. Okay, everything's looking good. Now I just need to get my cable slide back on there. Let me go locate that, and I will be right back to show you how to make sure you reinstall the cable slide correctly. If you locate your cable slide and it's cracked or broken or anything, just contact Sanlita and ask them to send you a new one. So here's the cable slide component. As you can see, there's 2 little hooks here, and the cables ride through those hooks. One is longer than the other. So here it is. So as you can see, the hook on that side is longer than the other. So when you put the cable slide onto the slide rail, you want the longer hook toward the front, toward that direction. And it's because of the position of that cable. Now, the X in the cables should be below the slide here. So when you put this cable slide on, you want to hook the cable on in that direction on first. It'll be easier because it's actually behind. So I'm just pulling it into the slot. I'm just pushing it around that hook. Now for the other side, I'm going to pull it into that hook. Now both of those cables are running into the cable slide the way that it needs to, and you'll see a gap right here between the 2 cables when it's properly installed on the cable slide. Now this bow is ready to be shot again. It just needs the arrow rest on. So this bow was returned, came fresh out of the box. The person probably took it right out of the box. I mean, this thing is brand new. Never even had the arrow rest put on it. They probably just pulled it back and let it go and popped the string off. It's hitting. So we're back in business. This bow is ready to go. It's probably only ever had 1 shot on it at a very low draw weight, and it's ready to go. Okay, here is the other bow. I'm going to put my marks on here. So there's a straight line going on to there. I'm going to line that up. straight line. Going to line that up. That's going to help me keep track of my rotations. Grab my Allen wrench. 12. I'll turn it 12 turns on each side. So this is the other cam configuration. So the cams, I'm rotating them. The cable, as I rotate the cams, the cable should come around the circular piece toward the peg here. And so when you have these rotated in the proper position, they're going to look like that. Now this bow here is missing the draw module, so I need to replace the bottom draw mod. It must have flown off in the process of being dry fired. Okay, so I have the draw mod. If your draw mod got ruined, you'll need to get that replaced and the appropriate screws. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually take some blue Loctite and put a dab on the end of each screw. The Loctite helps hold these screws from coming out. Okay, so I've located the correct Allen wrenches. You need the little cutoff looking Allen wrench for on the other side of this, and you'll need one of your larger Allen wrenches. For the draw module, the flat-ended piece is going to go away from the top limb, and this is going to go against where the cable rides. So we're going to put it on like this. Now the top cam lines up, the number 5 lines up with my line here, so I'm going to be right in this orientation. So I'm going to be putting the screw right at the number 3 here. So go ahead and put that in. Now I'm only going to finger tighten it to start because I still have to put my screw on the other side. So I'll flip it over carefully. Now to get it started, I'm just going to use the straight edge like this, because then I can just spin it and quickly get it down. Now I can tighten it all the way, now that I'm here. And that Loctite helps to hold it, all those screws in place, the blue Loctite. Switch back to my other Allen wrench, tighten that up. Okay, so now I'm going to replace the string. So this end here, the string is around, the cables are in place, this one's okay. Let me flip it over for you. Now I'm observing where my cables are. They're on the inside of the cable slide rod. That's where I want. Now for the top, I'm going to just take the string off the top cam completely there. My yoke system's in place. Everything looks good there. I'm going to come around the top cam. Look where your cable is here. The cam's not rotated down. Where the cable is seated is up here. So I'm going to come around the cam and just through the yoke system and hook it on the peg. Now I'll feed it into the slot all the way around the outside edge of the cam. Now we're in place. Now as you recall, I turned each limb bolt 12 times just to get it out. Make it nice and easy. I'm gonna tighten about 6 on each side just to get it remotely close, and then we'll take it 2 turns at a time. Now look, my string is behind that. Just want to bring that around to this side. Okay, everything's still very loose though. Now I don't have my Peep sight in, so I might want to just stop here and grab my Peep sight and put that in the string. And you want to put it between these 2 knots that they provide. Alright, now as I'm spreading the string, this is an example of a strand right here. The string is made up by a number of strands, sometimes around 24. It depends on the string maker. But you want an even number of strands on either side. Now the D loop is here, so I want the top facing side of the Peep sight, I want it to face toward the cam on the same side as the D loop. So I'm going to put it in like this. Look at both sides, make sure that I have an equal number of strands on this. Looking pretty good. And I'll slide these up just to help hold it in place. So the Peep sight, the up facing side of the Peep sight is on the same side as the D-loop. The down facing side of the Peep sight is on the side where the arrow is going to clip on. So now I can continue to tighten it up. If your strands are broken, if you have multiple strands are broken on the string, you will need to replace the string. So now I'm going to tighten 2 turns at a time on either side. Okay, now this one's back in position. Let me double check my tiller measurements. So this one is measuring 11 3/4 to the outside edge of the string on that side, 12 3/8. So this is way off, which means the bow maybe came to me either a different number of turns or whatever, but that's a good indication that we are off on how many turns we've had. So this side needs to get tightened up a few turns. Okay, so I've added 2 turns to that side. Let's take a look. Okay, we're getting real close now. That's 12 1/2 on that side, 12 3/8 on that side. Just do 1 turn and see what that does. Looks like we're going to need 1 more turn. Okay, 12 3/8 there. 12 3/8. Good. Now we got to check. We need our cable slide. Now another thing you want to look at is the cam lean. If it's leaning real bad one side or the other, that could mean that the yokes maybe came off in the process and you had to put them back on. And if it's leaning real hard in one direction, you want to add twist to the side that the cam is closest to. So if it's way like that, you add twist to the yoke that side and it brings it back. This one's okay, but if the cam lean is real bad, it could cause the string to come off when you try to pull it back. So you need to make sure that's on. And then I'm also checking my C-clamps are in place on all sides. My cable is running around the circular piece here and onto the peg closest to the draw mod on both sides. So it goes around the circular piece to the peg closest to the draw mod there. Now I just need to get my cable slide and put it on here. Once again, for the cable slide, the hook that hangs down farther goes toward the bow riser, and we hook on the back one first and then the front one, and there should be a little bit of a airspace between the 2 cables below the cable slide peg. So if you happen to pop the string off of your bow doing that, this is how you fix it. But if you're in the process of looking to get a bow, make sure you wait until you have an arrow on there, get it all set up with the arrow rest and everything, and it's ready to be shot at a target before you draw the bow back for the first time. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take care and God bless.